some technical stuff. We'll be starting shortly. Hey, Gail.
Hi, Joe. Hi, Ginger.
Can you guys hear me? Hold on. I'm having issues with my volume. That's better. Good afternoon. Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing great, Ginger. Good to see you.
You too.
Gail, are you going to come?
Gail, are you coming on Wednesday?
Yes.
Oh, good. Beautiful.
Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Check, check, check. Everybody here is okay?
Good now?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. We're going to call to order. It's 1:04 p.m. and we'll go around and do welcome and introductions of all the subcommittee members. My name is Shauna Harrington. I'm the Director of Criminal Legal Advocacy at CCADB.
Hi, and I'm Joe DeTuno, co-chair. I work for the Judicial Branch Court Support Services Division, Family Services.
Good afternoon. I'm State Senator John Kissel, here by virtue of the fact that I'm the ranking senator on the Judiciary Committee here in the legislature. And I serve the great people of the towns of Enfield, Somers, Suffield, Windsor, Windsor Locks, East Granby, Granby, and Ellington. Thank you.
Johanna Canning with the Public Defender Services.
If someone on Zoom wants to start, maybe Ginger.
Sure. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ginger Wilk. I am the Senior Director over Reentry Services for CRJ Family Reentry. And this is my first day on the subcommittee, and I'm excited about it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Gail Hardy, and I'm the Chief State's Attorney's designee.
Hi, I'm Merritt LaJoy. I'm the complaint officer for the Office of the Victim Advocate.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kevin Doyle. I'm a judge in Hartford.
Is that everyone? I have bad eyesight, so I can't see all the way up there if that's everyone, but I think it is. So on our first item here, we are just approving our minutes from our July meeting, which didn't really, wasn't really much of a meeting, but if anyone got a chance to look at that, we could just approve that quickly. Okay. Yeah, it was us and Joanna briefly. Okay, so I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Gail. Great. Alrighty. We did already approve. I don't know if folks got a chance to look at the new provider application that I had sent out. But we did decide to approve that, that application. It's a new provider out of the Norwalk Stamford area.
And I worked with that person for a long time. And when I oversaw the domestic violence program, she's was excellent in that role. And I can only imagine she's going to do a really nice job utilizing standards as part of the treatment that she provides DV offenders in the Norwalk Stamford community. So it's good to have another person that the courts can use. And I'm glad that when it works, it works. I mean, she says she went through, she saw that she had to apply and she did so. And so it was really a beneficial thing. We can only hope more people do so. Which I think is a great segue into what we're trying to accomplish. So for just to refresh memories, Sean and I did a presentation to the full body of this task force on standards and its implementation. And one of the things that we decided as next steps was to really survey some of the major state agencies about what they're doing with batterer intervention programming and whether they are following standards. And also really then to kind of make sure that if they're not doing anything, they're not actually themselves providing any intervention, are they contracting with anyone for that? And then our goal is to take the answers from those state agencies and then really do a wider, really kind of a inquiry of community-based programming, just to really set the stage for us to have a good foundation to really move forward. Our hope is that we get a number of leads to really kind of make sure that if agencies or professionals are providing these services in the community, they're doing so within our standards. So I was kind of wondering why we didn't do this in the beginning. And I think the answer is because we thought that there'd be a lot of people on the list and that if we did our marketing campaign, we would end up with a voluminous number of providers. However, when that didn't happen, I think we really need to just hit a reset button and kind of send a survey out. Luckily for us, a lot of the people that are on this list, and again, it's not exhaustive, and we're going to go over this list, but we have at least some representation on this task force from many of these entities, but we also have professionals around the table that might have good contact information. So Sean and I are going to be the ones sending out, most likely by email, the survey. We're the ones that are going to be getting the responses back. And then trying to figure out from there what type of resources we may need to really do this initial inquiry in a quick fashion and not wait too long for responses. So that is the idea. We do have some survey questions that Shauna and I wrote as samples. We're going to go over those this afternoon just to make sure we're hitting the right notes. And if, again, getting your input on how the questions are phrased, if they need to be clearer, or maybe we missed something altogether. So your input is vital. I can't see I have bad eyesight too, so I can't see if your hand is raised. So please feel free to just, when you have a moment and you want to speak, just when you get that pause, please do so. We're not going to be doing it by raising of the hand. So if you have something to say, it's just an interactive, hopefully interactive meeting, and we don't need to call on you. So, Shauna and I did some brainstorming last meeting. And these are the agencies that we have put down as a starting point. And maybe there's more, but the first is Board of Pardons and Parole. Just as maybe another kind of refresher, all of these agencies did have a seat at the original standards committee, whether they had active participation or not. We know that they were a part of that initial standard. So the Board of Pardons and Parole, the Department of Corrections, including parole, Judicial Branch Court Support Services Division, Office of the Chief State's Attorney, Office of the Chief Public Defender, DCF. I know our friends at the Department of Children and Family, although not on this committee or task force, I know they do a lot of programming and around domestic violence and other things as well. DPH, DEMIS, Social Services. Those are the major agencies that we would like to start querying about this. So again, we're looking for people that might be running programming, but also making referrals to programming or having contracts with people who are doing domestic violence intervention. The other, which takes a little bit more work, and maybe there are other ways to get around it, but we're thinking licensing boards, APA. We tried that in the first iteration of the subcommittee. I know we had a contact. I'm not sure how we would get that, but any associations, associated psychological association, any sort of licensing boards, and then obviously we also can send this out to known large community-based programs that we know are doing this intervention and treatment. So I think 10 and 11 might be secondary. But I would definitely like to start with the first 9. Are there any others that you can think of that we missed on this list in terms of entities that might be contracting or offering domestic violence treatment?
Joe, how about PSRB?
What is that?
Sorry, Psychiatric Security Review Board.
Is that kind of like a licensing board?
No. Psychiatric security, those are the not guilty NGR clients, not guilty by mental disease or defect. NGR.
I got it. So do you think they might contract for DV programming?
I don't know what they contract for. I know that they have some of their patients when they step down go in the community for services. So
got it.
I know they have domestic violence cases.
Oh, sure. So do you think they supervise people in the community while they do their other treatment?
It's possible. I'm not sure to the extent of those services, but it's worth an ask.
I agree. Merritt, can you just email us that language, the agency?
Yep.
You can.
Sure.
any others that we have missed in this kind of first wide net of casting? I mean, I think we're getting all of the criminal court, obviously, which is important. Do you think the OVA, Mark Pelkers and Mary's shop, Office of Victim Services?
Yeah, OVS. Yeah.
I'm sure he will. And I'm really intrigued by, I know DCF does a lot of programming, and I think the person who does it is already on our list. But there might be others.
I think that's a great start.
Yeah.
Because I think from there, you may direct it to
Uh,
other things.
Right, and when we go over the questions, that's kind of my hope, is that that would be possible.
Would you guys have like one question? Can you like to them? Do you know of any other?
Yeah, we're gonna go over all the questions.
Sorry, go on ahead.
No, that's fine. For me though, what's most important is that we have contact people that we know can kind of carry the ball a little bit. It's really important, right? Because we don't want to send something to the commissioner of DOC and one email is probably not going, it might come back, or it might be sent on to somebody, but the more we can get people who are around this table, or at least individuals that we know would be able to, if not answer the questions, which would be ideal, but send it to the right place where those questions are answered. So as we go through this, we might ask individuals if you have contact in names or people in any of these places. And then if you would be willing to, after the initial email goes out, to just follow up for us, because I think it's just going to be a lot for Shauna and I to do. I'm going to cover CSSD. I got that one.
Thanks.
And we don't have to ask now. What we're going to do is Sean and I will send out an email once this list is approved. We'll send out an email to the group, and we'll be able to say, you know, who we're thinking of contacting, and if you have someone better, or you have a direct line to somebody, that would be important. But unless other people have other ideas, I'm just not sure there's any other big agencies that we have forgotten, unless is that agreed upon?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just roll into the questions then, if I can do this. I'm messing up. Okay, that's a problem. Sorry, it's going really slow. Okay, so remembering as that list of 9 or 10 now state agencies, these are the questions we are going to ask them. One, does your agency provide or offer better intervention programs, formal groups or individual one-on-one, or any intervention, treatment, or services for domestic violence perpetrators? I was trying to get away from defendants, I'm wondering if there's a better word than domestic violence perpetrators that we can use. We have an answer.
Maybe not an answer, possibly a slash and or accused,
Or alleged.
alleged.
Yeah.
Have they all been found adjudicated guilty?
Well, in
Yeah,
board
I see.
and probation it would, and board of pardons and parole it would.
What about offenders?
Merritt, where were you last meeting? I'm just joking.
It better be, because if you want to know the answer, I'll tell you.
I mean, that's just basically, are you providing this treatment, right? I mean, that's the
Right.
question, or any sort of treatment for domestic violence offenders. That's a much better word. That's just strictly a yes or no. If it's no, then I think that I might have to put down skip to number 3 or something. We'll have to figure that out. 2, if you said yes, do the services offered comply with the DV standards? Now we're gonna have to send something that kind of is a guide for that. And maybe the wording is a little bit rough there, but our offender by statute, that sort of thing. If no, is there a specific reason why the standards are not utilized in these programs or interventions? If they say, yes, they comply, then great. Then we should have a question about, did you go through the formal process? But we also can follow up too after we get the yes or no's. If they say no, I'm assuming they're going to say no because they're going to tell us they didn't know about it. Right? So that's going to be number 2 is going to be, may I help you? Oh, okay. That's okay. Kiddo. So again, that's, if they say yes, that's great. If they say no, we're going to get some good information about why. And then 3, does your agency contract with or otherwise send referrals to community-based programs or individuals providing the intervention, treatment, or services for domestic violence offenders? So again, if they don't do it themselves, then are they referring out to community-based programs? If yes, please provide the name and contact information in the space below. So again, to Senator Kissel's point, if they are doing community-based work, we want to know who they are and get some contact information so that we can then send out again. And then if yes, the services you contract with or otherwise send referrals to in the community have programming that complies with standards. So again, they need to understand that if they're sending people to the community, if it is yes, that's great. And if it's no, then we can circle back to them. And I think once Sean and I get a sense from the agencies and we get the information back, our hope is that if it's a learning time too. So if an agency says, you know what, we do, but we don't do it by standards, that's an opportunity for us to educate people about the standards, 1, 2, the law in the statute, and then 3, we can direct them on how to get on the list. So I think that's going to be really helpful. For us, I think for Sean and I don't want to speak for her, but I think the most important thing for us is to really get a sense of what community programming is out there. Because that's the next kind of wave for us to do, is to not only get it from the actual agencies, but then we're going to reach out to all those community-based agencies and start educating them about the standards and why it's important to get on it, get on the list and be an approved provider. The challenge, I think, for us is going to be when they say, no, they don't do it in-house, they don't contract with anyone, and they don't really interface with anyone in the community, because that's going to be the dead end that is going to be difficult. But again, I think it's going to be very important for us to get that information and really have a catalog of those agencies. The other thing I think that's very important is, this is a resource issue, obviously way more than what Sean and I can do as co-chairs, but if we could find an intern or someone like that to actually go on websites of these agencies and the community-based providers to really just get a sense of what's out there. I think that would be really helpful. I mean, the person I had working at CSSD was really more geared toward making sure the standards were in compliance with other states as a best practice measure. But this is really doing the work of, looking up to see who is saying they do domestic violence treatment in the community. And then we can take a look at whether they're on our list or not. And if not, really what they offer. The challenge, I think, for us is that the group-based programming is going to be very easy. The difficulty is going to be the individual therapist that's in the community that isn't going to be on a website. They're within a bigger counseling agency. And when a call comes in from someone who got arrested for domestic violence, they're being given to that person to do treatment. That might be a little bit more difficult to do. I'm hoping that if an agency is sending an offender to that location or to someone specifically, we'll get that name and information back. Sure.
I just don't know if I should go through Sean or you, Joe, but you're both co-chairs. So
He's the boss.
yeah, you're the boss today. Through you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, like the old saying, follow the money. I mean, I'm guessing nobody out there, whether they're doing this one-on-one individually as like a psychiatrist or psychologist or, social worker or whatever their title is, and a counselor, but they're all probably getting paid from someone, maybe social service. I don't know who does the paying for these programs. And so that would sort of define, I would think, the universe, because unless there's groups out there doing this for free, which obviously we want them to comply as well. But I just think that once you do this initial outreach, you're going to have a great skeletal outline of exactly what your universe is. But I think that if we can find out also who's the paymaster here, without revealing anything that they can't give out publicly, but just to find out if Dr. X is out there in Newtown doing 12 cases a year and getting $1,000 per case, we should be able to find out who that is and ask them these questions as well. So I throw that out there. I don't know where we'd go for that though.
I mean, I think the short answer is that, the domestic violence group work is not insurance. You can't bill insurance for that. If I come and I'm a therapist and I'm dealing with somebody who got arrested for domestic violence, but also has all these other issues, adjustment disorder, whatever it is, you're billing for things that might be part of that person's treatment, but they're also going to court and dealing with a domestic violence. I'm wondering, so it's going to be insurance for some, and I think it's going to be private pay for a lot. Especially the people who are doing this with a.
So hard to get
It might be.
Yeah.
I know that there's going to be agencies that get state funding for, like Court Support Services Division. We get an appropriation, but ours does the standards. There's going to be other entities, I think, that are probably getting some state funding to do the treatment, or refer out that funnel stream to do contracting with community-based providers.
Just an idea.
I love it. And we tried, and the challenge, I think, is going to be when we get a list of people, that's the question for them, right? Is I think my hope is that, and that's why it's so important to get the right contact person who would be able to say, we don't contract, but we send it out to these 5 people. And then we can then take the ball there and ask them, what are you doing with the offenders, and does it match with our standards? So I'm hopeful that this is going to give us enough leads where we can honestly come back and say to the group, the bigger group, we did this, and there might not be as many programs as we once imagined. Or there's something else afoot here, and at least if we can identify it, then we can move on and figure out what to do from there.
I think that you're gonna, if I may, Madam Chair, I used to, as a young person, I used to watch this cartoon, Johnny Quest, right? All right, so Joe likes Johnny Quest too. And there was this invisible monsters kind of thing. And so they broke it down to like, let's throw paint at it and we'll figure out what it looks like, right? This initial foray is going to start to flesh out what are we dealing with. And you're going to probably find out very quickly, here's like a whole giant treasure trove of information. And here are those inevitable dead ends that we knew would be out there, but some may be expected and some may be surprising. But I think that until we go fishing, we're not going to know what the ocean looks like.
I agree. Does anyone have any other questions that they think would be helpful? Do you think that the questions as stated are going to get the information we're looking for? I mean, you know, these were just kind of Shauna and I, sitting together and kind of going through and trying to figure out how we could get as much information as possible, but we're open to other questions. We're trying to also not make it so large that we want someone to be able to do this in a quick manner. So anyone on the screen have any other thoughts about the questions? Would they add, subtract?
Joe, initially, I thought that, as the state's attorney's office, we don't contract with offender programs at all. But the more I thought about it, I know that, there have been occasions where a defendant comes into court and family relations is not accepting that person for their programs, and either the defendant or his counsel will suggest that he or she will receive programming in some community-based program, and we oftentimes say, okay, bring that information back to us, and if he completes the program, we'll resolve it either with a nollie or in some other sort of manner. So initially, when I'm thinking that we definitely don't contract with any community-based programs, this may give us an opportunity to see what other programs are out there, either because a defense attorney has referred someone to a program, and we'll find out whether or not those programs comply with the standards.
Yeah, I hear. So that would be great. We're gonna have to modify some of the questions for the audience, right? So for the public defender and probably the chief state's attorneys, we would probably say, do you utilize any community-based programming for domestic violence offenders, right? Or we have to figure out the language so that, that you accept reports from any community-based agencies for domestic violence offenders. You know what I mean? Because what we want to get from both the public defender and the chief state's attorney is, like, as an example, in Hartford, yeah, we know that we send to Dr. DeTuno, and we send to, this group that does domestic violence offender services and things that we would never anticipate. So like we have to find the right way to do it. And maybe Gail, for you, when we start thinking about a survey for the chief public defender, the language might be very different. And same with the public defender. Where do you send your clients for domestic violence treatment if that's something you wish them to do?
And I would say, to Gail's point, we do often individualize treatment for our clients because obviously different people listen to different people differently. So sometimes the program that is already set up in court doesn't necessarily work. So we're out in the community looking for providers. We're having the same struggle trying to find these providers, but also trying to convince the state's attorney who's listening to us that this is legitimate. This is a legitimate therapy.
Right.
So having people on a list who have already been vetted would be helpful.
Very helpful.
And we would definitely need to change some of the language.
Yeah, no, and again, I think
Right.
we were really just trying to get at the big points, and we knew that it would have to be tailored for different audiences and different agencies. Because this wouldn't, you'd say no, and be done with it. But we also know that, the public defender certainly in some courts are sending people to different community-based agencies for just a lot of different things, right? And if they have an expertise in domestic violence and you're utilizing that program, what does it look like? And the benefit from this is that we're not asking you to go and research, not you personally, but the public defender to research where you send. That's going to be on Shauna and I, and to kind of say, okay, now that we have this list, let's see what they do. We can call them, we can email them, do those types of things. So thank you, Gail. That was great.
Any other suggestions on additional questions or? Sure.
Yes, my question is for some of these state agencies, and I understand what Attorney Hardy had said about the state's attorney, but thinking in terms of like public defender, and back in the day when I was a special public defender, long ago, but so much of our state is broken down into geographic areas where, certain courthouse, certain set of folks tend to be around that particular courthouse. And so I'm wondering, like, when you decide we're going to send it off to the public defender's office, I think, how do we know that we anticipate that some of these questions can't really be answered from a central location? I mean, it'd be great if I thought everything was centrally located there, but it may be like the lists may be, there's a certain list that the lawyers in New London use, and another one in New Britain, and another one in Hartford. And to let them know that we know that they may have to stretch out and pull in this information from their various cohorts in the field.
Yeah, and I think if we just send it to the central location from there, it can then be distributed out to the different courthouses. Because I agree, like you said, I think even the list that we do have now tends to favor the western half of the state, and we don't really have a lot of providers identified in the eastern half of the state. So I think from the central location, it will definitely have to be distributed out. Any other comments or questions or suggestions?
So I guess if that is all kind of taken care of, what would probably be next is trying to figure out how to get all this completed in a reasonable amount of time. I think for me anyway, timing wise, I think that we're gonna, if we get good contact information, we want to turn this around pretty quickly. And then try to figure out who's going to help do all that contacting. Because if it's voluminous, then it's not going to be something that Shauna and I are going to be able to do in a reasonable amount of time. So I certainly have some resources that we can put forward to it by way of, you know, some intake assistance or someone that in my chain of command that would be willing to help out. But I also don't want to lose so much of the knowledge of what we're doing. Because it does take someone who understands kind of what's been going on. So yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah. The only thing I think when you sort of launch these requests and then maybe also have in there, please respond by and
Mhm.
pick a date like 2 or
Yeah.
3 weeks out. But I think if you run into any brick walls or it looks like a heavy lift is starting to happen, maybe then bring that issue, say, listen, we as this, subcommittee of the overarching group did the first steps. Here's now what we have. And I would maybe like sort of throw it out to the whole group, the whole council. Well, I'm not sure what the official terminology, but the whole group, and say, do you have any ideas? There may be an intern, there may be some kind of connection with a university where someone can get a little bit of credit or not even like, like a credit, but some experience. But there's no lack of people interested to try to help out. And I think that you guys could bring them up to speed pretty quickly. I just throw that out as an idea.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So I guess in terms of next steps, what we're going to do is we will package what we're thinking of sending to whom, and then just send it out to the group for just approval. I think, for the chief state's attorney, I'll just send it to Gail, and for public defender, if you don't mind, I'll just send it to you and make just how the questions are worded, just so that you could put your spin on it. It'd probably be very helpful. I think for the other kind of bigger agencies, we just have to find who might have the best contact information, and Sean and I will sit down and we'll go through the list, and I probably have some good contacts. I'm not sure if Shauna does. If in that list of agencies, if you had an idea of who would be a good contact person, if you would just email Shauna and myself, just say, hey, I know this is who I know at the Board of Pardons and Parole. That might be very helpful. And then we can just go from there. I'm hoping that Sean and I can get all that done and have things sent out by sometime right after Labor Day. And then with give them a certain period of time so that when we meet, when is we have an October meeting, right?
We do. We have a September meeting as well.
The September meeting, though, would that give us enough time to report back what we found?
No,
What-
but
what-
maybe we could use that as a deadline to have everything out.
Sure. What's the October meeting though?
I believe it's 10/19
So by October 19th, we should have the
21st.
responses.
or 10/21. Thanks, Mayor. As soon as I said it, I was like, wait, I think it's 21st. Thank you.
So by that time, we certainly should have all the responses back, and then we can, in that meeting, formulate a game plan for next steps.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
And what other business do we have?
I don't have any other business. If anyone else has anything they'd like to discuss.
Do you know when our next sort of all together meeting is?
Believe it's at the end of September, whatever that last Wednesday is in September.
So it's not one like next week.
No, no. There is the arrest warrant subcommittee, which is this Wednesday. There's a model policy meeting, which I believe is the first week in September. And then the larger council meets that last Wednesday in September.
Yeah, so you'll be able to report that everything's been sent out. You may even have some responses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So if there's no other business, our next meeting is Wednesday, September 11th. Same hybrid format from 1 to 2:30. And that's all, I guess.
Any other business that people would like to raise about the offender subcommittee?
Well, thank you guys for your hard work.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thanks, everyone.